Hello everyone, this is John from RPGs and More. And in today's video, I want to talk to you about partially about a book that I've been reading, but also about a concept in gaming that I have been kind of learning about over the past couple of years. And it's been slowly percolating in the old brain pan. And that is, first we'll start with the book. And the book is Tiny Taverns by Gallant Knight Games. And Tiny Taverns is a slice of life fantasy role-playing game. Now, what this means is in this book, they present rules to allow you to play the Tiny Dungeons game, because this is a setting book for Tiny Dungeons by Gallant Knight Games. Good old water. And what it does is it presents the idea that instead of being adventurers who travel into dungeons to kill monsters and collect loot, you are people who run a business. Probably a tavern, maybe an inn, or maybe you are staff in a castle. There's a lot of options. The idea basically being you are people that work. And the adventure comes to you. And I am really digging it. I am digging the idea. Now, I haven't finished reading this book yet, so I'm not going to talk about the rules in the book. If you are a fan of Tiny Dungeon and you like the idea of slice of life gaming, then check out that book. It is really, really cool. But let's talk about what slice of life role-playing is. Now, for those not familiar with the term, slice of life is often used, in my experience, when referencing Japanese animated films and television shows, commonly referred to as anime. The topic that it usually refers to is a show that is all about everyday life. There's no giant quest to save the world or to prevent the demon lord from rising up. No, there's none of that. There's no, gotta catch 'em all kind of montage of action. No, none of that. No, it's the kind of stories where you might see a group of teenagers trying to navigate the perils of school. And all of that entails, whether it's clubs, cliques, romance, trying to decide your future, figuring out how to navigate friendships, who's a real friend, who's a fake friend, how do you tell the difference between them, how do you get someone who's a fake friend to become a real friend if you really want them to, and how do you get someone who's a real friend to see you as maybe something more than just a friend, if that's what you want to do. It's a lot of things that kind of tail into that. And then, of course, there's the idea of playing a game as someone who's a working adult. And maybe your games center around finding ways to creatively solve the current problems so that none of you get in trouble with the boss, or finding a way to ruin the company and thumb the nose at the boss and then quit in glorious fashion. We remembered forever. That could be another goal. Another goal could be playing characters who they're trying to work and go through the perils of, again, romance is always an option, but there's friendships, and there's also trying to hide maybe things about yourself that you don't want your coworkers to know about but at the same time indulging in those activities on the weekend. And there can be all sorts of drama and shenanigans that entail from that. And these are all things that are slice of life. So how does that pertain to adventures, to role-playing games? Well, what it does is, let's take the characters out of the dungeon. Let's instead put them in the town and have them be citizens of the town. In the case of Tiny tiny taverns, that's all about having them run a business, run a tavern or an inn. And I think that's a great place to start. But your slice of life adventure doesn't have to be that necessarily. It could be maybe your characters are, teachers at the local school. If you want to do that, fantasy land can have schools. Why not? Maybe you work at a temple. You can really be anywhere. But the idea is to have a location, a set place, a building, a ship, a vessel, a space station, something that doesn't change, something that you will always be in, because the point is that the adventure will come to you. A prime example of that in our media would be the television show Babylon 5. Because in that television show, almost everything that goes on happens in and around the space station Babylon 5. There are political struggles, there are religious struggles, there are personal squabbles, there are mercantile opportunities. There's people who get lost, people who are found. There are lots and lots of different things that go on that station, and all of them are part of the adventure. So for a fantasy world, why not take the Keep on the Borderlands, that classic module, but instead of concentrating on we're going to go into the caves of chaos, why not concentrate on playing the people who work and live in the keep? And you've got to deal with these crazy adventurers that, they come in all braggadocious and then come back all banged up after going out of there. But now they've got these loot and they're selling these magic items and they don't even know what they do. And suddenly you've got to deal with the outcome when one of those items turns out to be cursed and they're nowhere to be found. And now you've got to, deal with that situation. Or there's the politics of the court and trying to carry favor with different nobles within the keep and getting the seneschal's approval and getting the Castilians' good graces, trying to make some good deals in order to continue to sell your wares if you're a merchant. There's a lot of different things that can go on. The idea being, lower the stakes. Change the stakes and lower them so that it's not about survival. It's about telling a story of people and allowing those people to be different and allowing those people to express themselves and finding ways to just have fun in kind of a more relaxed fashion, because you're not out there fighting all the time. You're not out there risking your necks every night. Maybe you just really just want to perform really well, and so you need to find time to practice, and you've got to go through the rigmarole of finding time to practice. Good examples of another plot could be almost any episode of the TV show MASH, where there's a problem that needs to be solved, and so they go off and try to solve it, and there's shenanigans along the way, and you can pull from all of that to create a slice of life adventure. There's also, again, there's Babylon 5. That's another good mention. But let's also look at a few other options, because you can start looking into natural disasters as something that can add spice to the adventure if you really want to add a threat. The most basic one is fire. You're running your inn. It's a busy night. Something happens in the basement and the inn lights on fire. Now you've got to fight the fire. You can treat that fire like a monster and fight it and try to beat it. Or maybe a neighbor's home lights on fire and your job is to prevent that fire from spreading, to get in there to rescue people, to be the hero that way. And that's another slice of life kind of thing to do, because it's higher stakes than what we've been talking about, which is a lot of relationship related stuff. But it is still something that is kind of, it is believable. It doesn't stretch the imagination too much. Another option is I've recently been watching a show called Bridgerton, and it is a fantastically funny, romance-oriented show about people trying to find love and a fair amount of other things during the season of romance in a Regency-style world that is kind of like England, but England as it exists only in people's imaginations, because boy are things different, and it's for the best. Frankly, I enjoy the absolute diversity in that show. I think it's fantastic. If you want to see how to present a world that is diverse while still adhering to a common setting that most of us are used to, this show is a great blueprint for that. And you can run your games that way too, because it all comes down to how the characters are interacting with each other, how your player characters are interacting with each other. And that's great. They can all be members of one household that are all trying to get the best deal for each other, and maybe there's a little bit of backstabbing going on, and maybe there's a little bit of just bantering, and you're having fun along the way. Your players are having fun along the way, and it's an option that could be really entertaining as long as you've got the right group for it. Now, that's slice of life gaming. That's several different examples of how it could go. Am I saying that everyone needs to do this and that you're not playing D&D if you're not doing it? Absolutely not. That is not what I'm saying. I don't think that everyone needs to do slice of life gaming. If you and your group are enjoying the dungeon crawl, keep dungeon crawling. Don't let someone like me tell you to change things just because. If you're having fun, keep having fun. All right, this is not a criticism of anyone who isn't doing this. This is just me talking about something that I thought was really neat and that I'd like to try in my own games. And maybe my next campaign that I'll run will be a lower stakes campaign. Maybe it won't last too long, and that's okay. I want to have fun, and I want to maybe hear about other people that have had similar fun. Have any of you ever run a slice of lifestyle campaign in the past before where combat was a rarity and it was all about political intrigue? What was that like? Did you enjoy it? Did your players have fun? Did you use a different system than, say, D&D, or I know GURPS is also great for these kinds of things. Another good one is the Cypher system, can be good for it. I've been wanting to learn more about the Pendragon system, and imagine that would be an interesting one to try a slice of life with, which is kind of what Pendragon is built for in some ways. But what are your experiences? Does this sound interesting to you? Does it sound kind of wonky and hokey? Like that? That's fine. Let's communicate. Let's talk in the comments below. Thank you for stopping by and for giving me your attention. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and peace be with you. Bye-bye.